Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself forward, about speed, about intensity. But what if discipline is actually about standing still on the stair you don't want to descend, yet listening to the silence of the morning before the first step is taken? How often do you rush into action without reading the ground beneath your feet? How often do you mistake effort for understanding? Musashi never taught warriors to fight harder. He taught them to see rhythm in their steps, in the distance between movements, in the quiet before contact. And if the ground you're standing on determines every outcome, why are you still moving without looking? The ground was never symbolic to him. It was literal. Before swords, before opponents, before victory or loss, there was always the surface beneath his feet, uneven, unforgiving, changing with weather, light, and time of day. Morning dew made with slick, dry earth cracked under careless steps. Stone echoed mistakes. Miyamoto Musashi did not begin his way by searching for meaning. He began by observing where he stood. He lived in a world where survival was not abstract. Conflict was close enough to hear breathing. Distance was measured in steps, not theory. Every movement carried consequence, and every hesitation left a trace. He was not the strongest man in the room. He was rarely the most impressive. His presence did not announce itself, but he watched. He noticed how opponents rushed when the morning light was still low, how impatience crept in when silence stretched too long, how confidence shifted when footing felt uncertain, while others focused on striking. He paid attention to rhythm, the timing between footsteps, the pause before commitment, the moment when balance was assumed but not secured. This was his problem, and his starting point. Most warriors moved without understanding the ground they were standing on. They trained techniques but ignored context. They repeated forms but forgot to adapt. They mistook motion for readiness. Musashi did not seek mastery of the sword first. He sought mastery of position, where to stand, when to move, when not to. Every morning, before anything else, he placed his feet deliberately, not faster, not slower, just aware. Each step down was measured. Each pause held long enough to feel the silence settle. The way for him did not begin with combat. It began with discipline grounded in reality, not ideals, not promises, only what was underfoot. The problem did not announce itself as failure. It arrived quietly, disguised as confidence. Warriors around him trained harder each day. Longer hours, sharper blades, faster movements. Their steps grew louder, more certain, more aggressive. From a distance it looked like progress. Up close, something was missing. They charged forward without reading the space between actions. They advanced when the ground shifted beneath them. They pressed attacks when rhythm had already slipped away. Not because they were weak, but because they were moving out of sync with what was happening around them. Musashi noticed this before anyone else did. He saw how momentum betrayed those who trusted it blindly, how speed collapsed when timing was wrong, how effort multiplied mistakes instead of correcting them. The more others pushed forward, the more unstable they became. This was the crisis. Not an enemy at the gate, not a decisive duel, but a growing realization. Discipline without awareness leads straight into collapse. There were moments when he stood still while others moved past him, not advancing, not retreating, just standing, feet planted, weight balanced, breath quiet, watching the rhythm of the space unfold. The morning air hung heavy, silence stretched longer than comfort allowed. To the outside eye, it looked like hesitation. It wasn't, it was refusal. Refusal to act without understanding. Refusal to move just because movement was expected. Refusal to mistake urgency for clarity. Yet this choice came with pressure. Standing still meant being misunderstood. It meant watching others gain recognition while he remained unnoticed. It meant resisting the pull to prove himself through motion. Each time he paused, question pressed closer. Was he falling behind or stepping out of a broken rhythm? The ground beneath his feet did not offer answers. It only responded honestly. A slight shift when weight leaned too far. A scrape when balance was careless. A warning long before a fall. This was the moment where many would rush forward to escape doubt. Musashi did the opposite. He stayed. He stood between steps, between silence and action, between what everyone else was doing and what reality demanded. And in that stillness, the old way began to crack. Because when rhythm is ignored long enough, even strength turns against itself. The crisis was no longer external. It was a choice to keep moving blindly or to relearn how to stand. The turning point did not arrive as instruction. There was no teacher stepping forward, no speech meant to convince him that came through unremarkable, easy to miss. One morning, before the world fully woke, Musashi stood on the same worn steps he had descended countless times before. The wood was damp, the air unmoving. His foot hovered just above the next stair, waiting, not because he was uncertain, but because he was listening. In that pause, he noticed something others never did. The ground did not demand perfection, it demanded alignment. Not with rules, not with tradition, but with what was actually happening. Combat, he realized, was not a sequence of techniques. It was a living rhythm shifting with distance, terrain, breath, and intent. When that rhythm was respected, even simple movements carried weight. When it was ignored, even refined skill unraveled. This understanding did not push him forward, it anchored him from that moment. He stopped measuring progress by effort. He stopped chasing speed for its own sake. Instead, he committed to something quieter and far more demanding, adapting to reality without resistance. Every step became conditional. Every action waited for context. Every decision answered the ground beneath it. Discipline, in this light, was no longer about control. It was about responsiveness, about refusing to move until movement made sense, about adjusting without hesitation once it did. He chose a path that could not be displayed or explained easily, a path where results were delayed, and certainty came only through repetition. Morning after morning, he returned to the same steps, the same silence, the same measured descent. This was not restraint, it was strategy, and in choosing to move only when rhythm allowed, Musashi set his feet on a way that could not be shaken, because it was built on what does not lie. The earth does not pretend, it simply responds. The morning arrived before intention did. Darkness still held the edges of the room when his eyes opened. No signal, no urgency, only the quiet pressure of habit beginning to form. The body resisted without argument, heavy, unmoving, while the mind reached for delay. He stayed there long enough to hear the silence settle, long enough for the urge to turn away, to pass on its own. He sat up. The floor was cold, honest. Each movement asked for permission. He did not rush to stand. He placed his feet where they could feel the ground clearly, testing balance before committing weight. The first step was small. The second measured. The stair beneath him creaked on as warning, but as confirmation. Outside. The morning had not decided what it would become yet. This was the work, not training that demanded applause, not effort fueled by emotion, just repetition carried out before comfort arrived. Each descent down the steps followed the same rhythm. Pause, shift, step. Silence returned between movements, not as absence but as space. There were days when the body slowed on purpose, days when the step hovered longer than expected. He did not correct this. He observed it. Fatigue revealed itself in subtle ways, weight leaning too soon, breath shortening, attention slipping. The ground responded immediately. Discipline began here. In these early hours, without witnesses, he learned that waking early was not the challenge. Remaining present was. The temptation was not sleep, it was impatience. The urge to complete the movement faster than the moment allowed. Each time that urge surfaced, he stopped. Not forward, not back, standing still on the stair, letting the silence hold him in place. With enough mornings, something shifted. The step no longer felt like a task, it felt like alignment. The body learned the rhythm before the mind tried to name it. Movement followed readiness instead of force. The morning became a teacher that did not explain, only repeated. This was the first victory, not over weakness, but over unnecessary motion, and it happened without noise, without declaration, without anyone else knowing it had occurred at all. Asterisk days began to resemble one another. The same hour, the same silence, the same descent down the steps before the morning fully arrived. Nothing new was introduced, no variation to keep interest alive. The ground did not change its demands, and the rhythm refused to accelerate simply because familiarity grew. Each step still required attention, each movement still answered to balance. This was where many would have adjusted, seeking novelty, intensity, or proof of progress. Musashi did none of that. He repeated. Training unfolded without markers. No moment announced improvement. Strength arrived quietly, hidden inside consistency. The body adapted not through strain, but through accuracy. The mind learned to stay with what was happening instead of reaching ahead. There were mornings when doubts surfaced through action. A step placed carelessly, weight shifted too early. The silence after revealed the mistake without commentary. He did not correct it immediately. He stood still, allowing the error to register fully before moving again. Repetition sharpened perception. Patterns emerged. How fatigue altered posture, how distraction shortened pauses, how impatience created unnecessary movement. None of this needed interpretation. The ground showed it all. The hardest part was not effort. It was staying with the same routine when nothing dramatic occurred, staying with the same pace when progress felt invisible, staying present when the mind searched for justification to change course. Each morning, he returned to the stair, not to test himself, but to confirm alignment. When alignment was there, movement flowed. When it wasn't, he waited, not forward, not back, standing long enough for the rhythm to correct itself over time. Discipline stopped feeling like resistance. It became permission. Permission to move without forcing. Permission to act without rushing. Permission to trust the process precisely because it did not. Entertain. The earth did not reward effort, it responded to consistency. And in that response, something stronger than motivation began to take shapes, something that did not depend on mood, outcome, or recognition. Just repetition. Just rhythm. Just the quiet certainty of placing the next step where it belonged. Asterisk. The conditions changed without warning. Rain arrived before dawn, turning the ground unstable. Wind pressed against balance, not violently, but persistently enough to expose habits that only worked in calm. The steps were still there, but their surface no longer responded the same way. Each descent demanded recalibration. This was where repetition met resistance. Musashi did not retreat indoors. He did not wait for favorable conditions to return. He adjusted his stance, lowered his center, shortened his steps. Movement slowed not by choice, but by necessity. The body listened before acting. The ground dictated terms. Cold seeped in through the hands. Muscles stiffened. Breath shortened. None of this was named. It was registered through posture, through how weight shifted later than expected, through how pauses grew longer without intention. At times, he stopped entirely, not because he could not continue, but because continuing would have meant forcing rhythm where it no longer existed. Standing still became the discipline, letting the storm move around him instead of through him, letting the silence inside remain intact, while everything else pressed forward. Others trained harder in bad conditions, louder, faster, as if effort could overpower instability. Their movements grew erratic. Balance broke under speed. The storm took advantage of impatience. Musashi learned something different. Difficulty did not require aggression. It required clarity. The ground was no longer reliable, but it was honest. Every misstep revealed itself immediately. Every correction came through adaptation, not resistance. He shortened reach. He waited longer between steps. He allowed the rhythm to slow until it matched reality again. This was not endurance. It was negotiation. Between body and environment, between intention and condition, between action and consequence. When the storm passed, nothing looked different. The steps remained worn. The morning still arrived quietly, but something had shifted beneath the surface. Movement now carried an elasticity it did not have before. He could adjust without hesitation, pause without doubt, move again without loss of momentum. The storm did not strengthen him. It taught him when not to push, and that understanding stayed long after the ground dried, long after the silence returned to its usual shape. The test did not come as hardship, it came as ease. The ground dried, the air softened, movement felt lighter again. Steps responded cleanly, almost inviting speed. This was where discipline thinned, where shortcuts appeared reasonable, where restraint began to look unnecessary. Opportunities presented themselves quietly. A faster route, a simpler method, a way to arrive without pausing. Nothing demanded compromise outright. Nothing announced itself as a mistake. That was the danger. Musashi noticed the shift through action. His foot landed a fraction earlier than before. Weight committed before balance confirmed. The silence after felt shorter, thinner, less settled. The ground did not resist, but it did not support fully either. He stopped, not because the path was wrong, but because it was too easy to stop paying attention. Standing still returned the rhythm. He waited long enough for intention to separate from impulse. The step resumed only when alignment returned, when movement answered reality instead of convenience. This was not stubbornness, it was refusal to drift. Each morning repeated the same choice: to maintain the pause even when it seemed unnecessary, to honor the silence even when no obstacle demanded it, to keep the step measured when speed offered itself freely. Others mistook this for limitation. They moved ahead, they covered more ground, they looked efficient. Musashi stayed where he was long enough to confirm stability. Not forward, not back, just present, letting the ground reveal whether it could be trusted again. Discipline hardened here not against difficulty, but against comfort, not through denial, but through awareness. He learned that the true erosion of practice did not come from storms, but from smooth surfaces that encouraged neglect. The step taken carefully on an easy morning carried more weight than one forced through resistance, because it proved something quieter and more durable. That discipline, once internalized, does not require pressure to exist. It remains even when nothing is pushing back. There was no moment when discipline announced itself as complete. No signal, no reward, no shift visible from the outside. Yet the mornings no longer negotiated with him. The body rose before thought intervened. The steps were descended without friction. Silence settled immediately, as if it had been waiting. Movement did not feel practiced, it felt accurate. Each foot found the ground without searching for it. Confirmation. Discipline had stopped being an effort. It had become environment. He no longer adjusted his rhythm consciously. The pauses appeared on their own. The steps slowed or advanced without hesitation, guided by conditions rather than intention. What once required attention now unfolded naturally, leaving space for awareness to expand. Others noticed something, though they could not name it. He did not rush. He did not hesitate. He occupied space without tension. In moments that demanded action, he moved without excess. In moments that required waiting, he remained still without strain. Standing on the stair, he could sense when movement would align, and when it would fracture rhythm if forced. This was not control, it was clarity. The ground beneath him felt familiar, not because it was predictable, but because he no longer fought its variability. Wet or dry, quiet or unstable, morning or late, his step adjusted before resistance could form. Discipline now carried a visible calm, not as confidence displayed, but as absence of waste. No unnecessary motion, No borrowed urgency, no reaction without context. The earth responded accordingly. Where others slipped, he adapted. Where others forced, he aligned. Where others chased advantage, he waited for rhythm. This was the quiet radiance of discipline, not something worn, not something claimed, but something revealed only after repetition had removed everything else. This stare no longer symbolized effort, it marked continuity. One step, one morning, one rhythm maintained without struggle. The moment did not arrive with urgency. There was no alarm, no visible threat, only a situation that demanded everything he had practiced without announcing itself as decisive. The ground was unfamiliar, not dangerous, not hostile, just different enough to erase assumptions. Distance felt altered. The space between steps widened, then compressed again without warning. Rhythm threatened to fragment if approached the old way. Others reacted immediately. They advanced, adjusted mid-movement, corrected after mistakes appeared. The speed increased, effort multiplied. Each response came a fraction too late. Chasing a rhythm that had already shifted, Musashi did not move. He stood where he was, not advancing, not retreating, feet placed, weight balanced. Silence held longer than comfort allowed. This was the test not of courage, but of restraint. Everything in the moment invited action, to prove readiness, to demonstrate mastery, to respond before uncertainty could settle. The temptation was subtle but relentless. Move now, adjust later, he refused. Standing still was not passive, it was diagnostic. The pause allowed the space to reveal itself. He sensed where balance failed others, not through observation alone, but through alignment with the ground beneath him. The rhythm surfaced slowly, like a current felt through the soles of his feet. Only then did he step out, not faster, not harder, just timed. The movement appeared simple, almost unimpressive, yet it cut cleanly through instability because it belonged to the moment instead of resisting it. Where others overcorrected, he adjusted once. Where others chased control, he matched conditions. There was a brief instant barely noticeable where everything could have collapsed, a shift in footing, a fraction of imbalance. In that instant, he did not force recovery. He paused, standing again between movements, letting the silence absorb error before continuing. That pause preserved rhythm when action would have broken it. This was the culmination, not victory over an opponent, but confirmation of alignment. If he had rushed, he would have returned to the beginning, relearning what impatience destroys. If he had hesitated out of fear, the moment would have passed him by. Instead, he waited until movement was inevitable, and when it came, it required no correction. The ground accepted the step. The rhythm held. The moment passed, not loudly, not dramatically, but intact, and the way proved itself without declaration. Because discipline, when fully internalized, does not announce success, it simply leaves no trace of struggle. Nothing about him appeared transformed at first. The steps were the same. The mornings arrived without ceremony. Silence still filled the space before movement. Yet everything unfolded differently. Where hesitation once lingered, there was now placement. Where effort once pushed forward, alignment guided motion. The body no longer argued with the ground. It responded. Each step carried exactly the weight it required, no more, no less. He did not become faster, he became precise. Others measured progress by distance covered or ground gained. Musashi measured it by stability, how rarely he needed to correct himself, how little energy was wasted in recovery, how often movement completed itself without resistance. Before, discipline had been something he applied. Now, it applied him. The ground beneath his feet felt familiar, not because it was predictable, but because he had learned to meet it without assumptions. Dry earth, wet wood, uneven stone. Each surface received the same attention, the same pause, the same respect. Standing still no longer felt like delay, it felt like presence in moments that demanded action. He moved cleanly. In moments that required restraint, he waited without tension. There was no internal debate, no need to justify choice through speed or force. The rhythm, once difficult to hear, now guided movement naturally. The difference became visible only through contrast. Others rushed when conditions shifted, others forced when timing slipped, others corrected after imbalance appeared. Musashi adjusted before error had time to form, not because he predicted outcomes, but because he remained grounded in what was happening. Each morning descent reinforced this. Each silent pause deepened it. The stare was no longer an obstacle or a test, it was a marker of continuity. The way had not changed him into something new, it had removed everything unnecessary, and what remained did not seek recognition, that simply moved when the moment arrived and stood still when it did not. The Earth Book was never about fighting, it was about where you place your feet before you move. Each morning offers the same quiet test, a stair waiting to be descended, a step that can be rushed or placed, silence that can be ignored or listened to. The ground does not ask for intensity, it asks for awareness. How often do you move without reading the rhythm beneath you? How often do you mistake effort for alignment? Discipline is not pressure applied to yourself. It is the ability to pause long enough for the moment to reveal how it should be met, to stand still without retreating, to step forward without forcing. The next time morning arrives, notice where you are standing. Feel the ground before you move. Let silence settle before the step is taken. And ask yourself, are you acting from urgency or from rhythm? If this reflection held you a moment longer than usual, stay with it. Share it with someone who needs space to slow down, and subscribe. So these mornings are no longer passed through unconsciously. The stare will be there tomorrow. The question is whether you will be present when you step.